All right, Quagmire, how about you chill?
And it's time. It's time. Are you guys, you know what? I feel like doing an episode.
It's time to unmute.
I feel like unmuting in Discord. I feel like opening up a delicious Guinness draft stout. That's tonight's beverage of choice, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just gonna pop it. I'm gonna be real careful though, because it's got the nitrogen ball in it, and sometimes it pops.
I swear, I feel like I just heard like Goofy flying off into the distance in the background.
Yep, that's exactly what happened. So we're gonna pour. Oh God, this is terrible. It just exploded all over me.
That's what she said.
Hey-o.
First time.
You never forget it. And then, as with the good Guinness, look at that. Isn't that goddamn gorgeous?
Pretty.
Oh yeah,
Very pretty.
The visual effect of it is like, oh, I love Guinness.
I'm gonna
So
find
filling
a
though.
towel.
Really nice and heavy. Well, a man who explodes should always keep a towel nearby. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Black Tower Podcast. We are a Wheel of Time podcast talking all things Wheel of Time and all things time, all things wheel, including your will to not explode all over the face of one of your hosts. This episode is not brought to you by Guinness, but I sure fucking wish it was, because that would be delicious. Anyway, I am your Bajan Mahel, Andrew. Both equally ashamed of me and proud of me are my co-hosts. Why don't you take it away, Josh? Tell us how you're recovering from that explosion to the face. Was it nice?
You know what?
You sip such, Willie.
In the words of Peter Pan, bangarang. And I am your Sorovan Mahale, Josh. I'm just
Get
here,
out.
man. I'm just here.
No, Josh is here to give you incorrect movie quotes, apparently, because right off. That was Rufio
Get
that
out,
said
and he immediately
bangarang.
froze and went quiet.
Okay, Rufio did say bangarang, but at one point in time, right after Peter makes the food appear with his imagination, they go, "How's your bobo, Peter?" And he goes, bangarang.
I'm definitely missing out because all I can think of is...
Don't mess with me, man. I'm a lawyer.
I just can't get over the fact that somebody's named Rufio. Like,
Yeah.
Rufio.
it sounds like a really bad version of a Pokemon.
Oh,
Hey,
I made so many
Dan,
jokes. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it.
no, it's okay. You don't need to. It would actually
yeah.
be wrong for you to join in because you don't know.
I was just going to make jokes about the name Rufio. But
Yeah. No, that's fair.
or some of
these
you
are
know him.
jokes that do
Prince
not
Zuko.
survive in 2023.
Yes, and just so that everybody is aware, I am your Amin Khan Guinness rum what's a good other thing? Grenadine Mahale, because that's what's in my drink right now. Not actually Guinness, but I am with Andrew completely to say that if Guinness wants to come on down, I will go ahead and drink the shit out of some Guinness and promote it even more than we already do on this show to all of our 2,000 some subscribers or followers on Twitter. And the 8 people that are going to see this in video form.
Over and over again. We appreciate the rewatch.
Yes, you know
Indeed.
what? That's probably the best thing about our listeners is they're like, their wives or husbands or boyfriends or girlfriends will come in and be like, you haven't you seen that like 8 times? They're like, yeah, but check it out. Here's where Daniel goes.
That was both of us are doing really good at
Here's where
examples
Daniel
tonight.
goes, to be fair. And then on screen, Daniel will be like, to be fair. And then our listeners are like, to be fair, like mouthing along. And then everybody in the room with them is like,
this is why we can't have nice things, Chet.
and
This is
then
why
and
we
then they
can't have
go,
nice things.
then they go, this is why I don't listen to this show with you, because look what it's done to you. Which means the weekly dose of taint is working.
But you know what else is true?
What else is true?
I have it on good authority that if you wear people down enough, they'll listen to the Black Tower with you.
Ooh.
So there is hope. There is always hope.
There is always, always, always hope.
And sometimes it's old hope. And sometimes it's a new hope.
Oh snap! Hey, that's like the background music for the Taint Watch video that I made. The trailer for Taint Watch. Hashtag Taint Watch. Follow hashtag Taint Watch on all social media platforms: Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. It's going to be great. You're going to see the whole process of the new batch of the Dark One's taint. This one is going to be taintier.
Why is it
last year.
spicy?
It's going to be great. It's going to be amazing. You guys are going to love it.
Are we calling it the Dark One's Taint again, or are we giving it a new name?
I don't
Is
know.
it different enough that it should warrant its own name, or is it just a modification on the recipe from last year?
It will definitely be different enough. So if we want to do like a Taint 2.0 or something like that, I'm definitely thinking we should continue along with the theme of the Dark One's Taint. But maybe we can open that up to patrons. Maybe we can open that up.
just Shidar Haran's taint. It's basically the Dark One's taint, but it's more tangible.
The avatar of Taint.
But when the world needed him the most, he turned into a husk.
Oh, snap. Speaking of being a Patreon, have you gone to blacktowerpod.com and clicked on Patreon and become a patron? It's the best Patreon in the world. The world.
Right after Amaranth. We're still building our portfolio. We're down 3 hot tubs and about a bajillion bikinis, but the banana hammocks are en route.
I was
gonna say, you speak for yourself. I have so many bikinis.
If we have that many followers, I'll record in a bikini live from JordanCon.
Bruh, every episode done.
So
just
how did Josh get
up.
banned from JordanCon again? Tell us the story.
It's a funny
again.
story.
Well, kids, back in the summer of 2023.
He got degenerate shamed out of JordanCon.
Oh, God. But yes, blacktowerpod.com is our website. It's got all things Black Tower Podcast, to include our social medias, and the big one is Patreon. Patreon, it reinvests.
The big one is Andrew.
What?
The big one is Andrew.
Yeah, that's the big.
I'm bigger than both of you guys. In some respect, none of which I'm happy about.
I lost my train of thought. Andrew, you finished the sales pitch, Andrew. Son of a bitch.
Oh, so we got Patreon, where you can go and you can get all kinds of benefits. You can listen to us record live. You can get early access to the fully edited episodes a week to week and a half earlier than everybody else gets them publicly. If you missed the live recordings, and even if you're here for the live recording, you just want to listen again, you can do that. We send out stickers on a bi-monthly basis. Speaking of patrons, stickers came in for this month. They were a little delayed. They will be out by the end of the week to your lovely mailboxes. At
Or
higher
your
tiers,
not
you can
lovely
get
mailboxes, depending on how your mailboxes are.
We're not going to judge
or
your
your PO
mailbox.
box if you decided to decorate it, if they allow that. I don't know. I don't know if they've ever been asked that. Hey, can I decorate my PO box? At higher tiers, you
Can
can
I
get
decorate my PO box?
you can get one of our illustrious sword and or dragon coins at the appropriate tiers, which you can then use to coin check any or all three of us anytime you see us in public. And if we don't have the coin, then we buy you drinks. But if we have coins, all of us, or whoever you coin check, you buy drinks. Look it up. It's a military tradition that we've brought to the Black Tower. And tons of other benefits that are yours for the taking. And if you want to check out and see what those are, just go, like Josh said, to blacktowerpod.com and click on the link to become a patron. Yeah.
Indeed.
And it'll be the greatest decision of your life. Just ask any one of our 4 patrons. Just kidding. We have more than 4.
And if you just want to get the whole thing over and done with, and you just want to go ahead and support us for a whole year at a time, you can.
That's true.
And I think you get like a 10 to 13% discount on the total price if you
Correct.
support us for a year at a time. In case you're like, I can do it right now, because it is, tax season. Maybe you got your tax refund back, and you're like, this needs to go to a worthwhile cause, a cause that betters all of humanity, and
True story.
blacktowerpod.com will take you wherever that is.
True story. True story, guys. Black Tower
Individual experiences may vary.
protects always. No, but it's great. It's really, we do have a lot of fun, and 100% of the funds that we get through Patreon go right back into our patron account, and it goes right back into making things fun for you guys. And the more support we get, the bigger and better the parties are going to get. Like, it's
All these stickers. Thanks, patron.
That's true. Yeah.
All you.
You guys just basically bought stickers from yourselves. And I donated my time designing it because I loved it and it was fun.
But anyway, go and check us out. If it's for you, we'd love to have your support. We're infinitely grateful for it. If it's not for you, or it's not for you right now, definitely understand. And we thank you for listening. Anyway, let us know what you think about us, what the podcast does, and the things we talk about, and what you want us to talk about. Let us know in the comments down below on YouTube, and the comments on Podcorn, or wherever you listen to podcast at. And if you want to absolutely make sure we get it, send us a DM on Twitter at Tower Podcast, or send us an email at blacktowerpod@gmail.com. But without further ado, we have one of our longer and lovelier, in terms of melody, it's like a nice, relaxing, chilling melody. Spoiler condoms for you tonight. So we're going to go ahead and rip that foil packaging open, pinch the tip, and just roll it all the way on to the base. And if you're feeling frisky, just go beyond and see how far back you can roll it. I'm not a professional, so don't take my advice as medical fact. So, but feel free to do. You're an adult, make your own decision.
Also, taint one.
This is your Black Tower podcast, Wheel of Time, spoiler warning. There are neither beginnings nor endings to spoilers, but this is a beginning. If you continue to listen, you may be cursed with the knowledge yet to come. These curses may include knowledge that you are, in fact, just a farm boy. Drinking 1 glass of wine now leads to mustache pulling and a hell of a hangover. Resigning that you will never be as good with the ladies as your friends are. Realizing Androl is bae, regardless of your gender or sexual orientation. The inability to stop tugging your braid in anger, even if you don't have hair. And understanding that the word taint is simultaneously a noun, adjective, and verb. Discovering you have more titles than actual name. The BDE, also known as Big Dragon Energy, becomes undeniable. Finding yourself promising to read A New Spring and never getting to it. An uncontrollable urge to argue over inconsistent pronunciations. Knowing that hating Gon is a responsibility, not a privilege. Again, there are no beginnings or endings to spoilers, but this is a beginning. You have been warned.
And if you heard all that and you're still good and you're still here, let's fucking go.
Oh, that's something else you can do as a patron.
LFG.
You can record a spoiler warning for us, and we'll.
Oh, that's
play it.
right.
Yeah,
That's true.
so if you want to do it, and either hit us up in Discord or just send it to us at blacktowerpod@gmail.com.
True.
Anyway,
It's a thing you can't.
Daniel, I'm sensing telepathically that you know what we're talking about tonight, as apparently Siri wants to get in on the conversation.
Yes, indeed. I am typically the master of the topics, not actually coming up with them necessarily, but bringing us into what we are talking about for the week. And this is no different. I think that this is a very interesting topic. It was not one that was even put in by me. It was actually, I think Josh put this one in, which is awesome. So I think that the story does a fairly good job of describing in a lot of ways the general power levels of the people who can channel in the Third Age. And there's a lot of discrepancy between sort of the weakest channelers and the strongest channelers in the Third Age, if they were actually born into the Third Age, if you will. But Robert Jordan, I feel like, does a relatively good job, as I said, communicating what that power discrepancy is and sort of one of the reasons that causes it. But we do also have some people who were not born in the Age of Legends, or sorry, who were not born in the Third Age and actually were born in the Age of Legends. And a number of them seem to well outclass some of the people who were born in the Third Age. Now, we've talked somewhat extensively on this show before about the supposition by a number of Browns in the White Tower, as well as a number of other people outside the White Tower, as well as men who show up to the Black Tower and things like that, about what is causing a lowering of power in the Third Age, both in scope and in proliferation between people. And so we actually wanted to go ahead and talk a little bit about that, about what sort of is that discrepancy between the channelers from the Age of Legends into the channelers into the Third Age. Now, to start this discussion, we do have to talk a little bit about what we mean by that. Robert Jordan does not actually use a power scale, really, outside of the glossary. He does actually give you a little bit of a thing. Actually, is it the glossary or the Big White Book of Bad Art?
I think it's the Big White Book of Bad Art. You're talking about the plus 12 minus, or plus 2,
well,
plus 12.
Yes. So I think that particular weird scale is in the Big White Book of Bad Art, as well as the RPG that was made.
Might be in the companion as well, I think.
Okay, it might be
for
in the
Sidare
companion.
only.
So our
Okay,
our initial entry on this is notes that Robert Jordan had placed in a blog, where he discussed sort of the level set. Then it actually gets modified in the companion.
Okay.
And then
that
as
was...
well as, let's see. Oh, it looks like it was so that was kind of fleshed out. It's been modified a couple times and then fleshed out in the companion.
Yes. So this is an interesting thing that happened throughout the book. So we're going to go back real quick and talk for just a moment about the publishing of the Wheel of Time. Tor Books was approached by Robert Jordan with an idea for a book. And Tor Books said, great, we think, is it? Nice.
Yeah, it's in the companion as well.
Nice.
At least for
And
science.
Tor Books said, hey, we'll totally publish your first book. And then we'll see how it goes. And Robert Jordan went, awesome. That's basically what I have right now. And then he wrote The Eye of the World, and Tor Books published it. And it did quite well. Then Tor Books said, hey, you want to write 2 more? And Robert Jordan says, okay, I can totally do that. So he writes The Great Hunt and The Dragon Reborn. Then Tor Books publishes those. They also do well enough for Tor Books to then turn around and say, all right, cool. Write as many as you want now, and we'll go ahead and publish them. And Robert Jordan says, great.
I'll probably only write like 2 or 3 more.
Right, exactly. That is 100% what happens. And then he ends up writing a ton more. And it definitely feels like between books 1 and 2 and 3, he has a lot more understanding of the world that he's building. And I think part of that is because he wanted to communicate the story as it was in his head. And you didn't need to know a shit ton of world building for the first book. You needed to know enough, and it was important to know certain things, but getting into the nitty gritty of a lot of stuff did not matter, and it would have been very heavy-handed. Then you go into books 2 and 3, and it becomes a little less heavy-handed because there's a lot more going on that you kind of need to know about as far as the nuts and bolts of the world that you're living in. Then you get into all of the rest of the books, and along with Robert Jordan, you're learning about the world that he's creating. And so that's one of the reasons that the power levels of people sort of
Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, they kind of Dragon Ball Z along with the different seasons of the thing, because the original scale that we had for how to tell or how to classify channelers quantifiably in a power chart was very simplistic. And it really didn't go ahead and take a lot of nuance or a wider range into account. Then it gets changed into a different one when Robert Jordan realizes that there's more variance that he needs to go ahead and account for, as well as more nuance that he wants to add into the world in general. Then
I believe
at some
the
point,
initial
you
one,
get sort of the last one that is sort of people really being like, okay, the best way to think about this is X. And I'm sure it doesn't work for everybody, but I feel like the sort of third one that we got is sort of the most intuitive, even if it's still not that intuitive. Sorry, Andrew, you were like,
no, you're fine. I was talking in the middle of you talking.
okay.
I believe the initial one was like purely out of a score of 0 to 100, this person can hold X amount of the power, and that there go is their strength.
Which
the second one took in more categories or more characteristics that could make a channeler stronger. You know, the more elements of their knowledge or their proficiencies and their skill sets. I think it took in more knowledge than it did like their specific kind of proclivities or talents, be it capital T or lowercase d. Whereas by the time we kind of get to the third kind of ranking, we're talking more, how much can you hold? How much knowledge and tact and skill do you have? And do you have any special talents or anything that you excel at that isn't just you applied yourself very strongly, but something that like is your uncanny boost, you know? Where's your additional like kind of class feature if you play D&D enough? Something you get just by proxy of being who you are. And I don't think there were definitely changes between the second ranking and the third ranking, but
Yes.
not nearly as many that drastically changed or significantly changed between the first and the second.
Correct.
Because what happened over the course, and what Robert Jordan I'm sure realized over the course of even the first 3 books, is you had this ranking already for people. So you're like, okay, well, here's Moraine, and then here's Nynaeve, and then here's Egwene, and then here's Elaine. And then you start doing things and you're like, actually Moraine is here. But then you got to take into account, which is something I like that Tor.com does. They have an article up from 2015. Oh yeah, it's almost like we all like think similarly.
Yes,
But
indeed.
it tries to talk about the strength chart of major channelers, not all channelers.
Yes.
And I like what they did with this one, where they're referencing their initial strength and then the individual's potential strength,
Yes.
which can be confusing until like you recognize who the characters are and like, maybe why they have an initial and then a potential strength,
Yes.
kind of thing. And of course, like everything else about Chandler's, the Sidene side is sorely lacking, but that's because the entire world is sorely lacking in knowledge of Sidene.
Well, and
but
one of the
does-
things that I actually
It does infinitely put male Chandlers intrinsically. No, it doesn't. Yes, it does. It puts male Chandlers intrinsically stronger than female Chandlers on this chart.
Well, it also
which
only
is-
mentions ones that are really strong in a lot of
Yeah,
ways.
it does. Like, well, with the exception of like 2, they're all kind of, forsaken.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, it kind of
Yeah.
makes sense. And of the 2 that aren't forsaken, one is, I don't know, literally the prophesied Messiah.
Yes.
Well, and so 2 things that I actually really think are interesting about this chart is that it does feel A, incomplete, but also B, more complete. Because I love this thing over here. They have this life expectancy sort of
You see the
thing.
discrepancy there? I was about to say, like, with the life expectancy. So they have a column that says the Sidar strength equivalent, and you go across the life expectancy that says 717 years for
Yep.
the top tier Sidare equivalent. But you
Yep.
go to the Sidare chart, and the top life expectancy is like 0.5 short of 800 years. Because
Yep.
just got to be that kind of dick. You get a half a year less
Right.
than people that don't even get anywhere near that time. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
But one of the things that I love on this thing is that there's another sort of box over here that it only describes when it actually gets to it and it's important. Which is if you go down about halfway down the chart or the table or whatever you want to call it, they have this 20 or 21 being the traveling 1 power threshold. Anyone under that sort of level of ability to channel with Sidar shouldn't be able to travel. Now, again, I say shouldn't because there's a male channeler who shouldn't be able to travel who actually fucking can, like really, really well. But so there are definitely a number of like exceptions to the rule. But at the same time, this is a little thing that I saw that I really loved. And I wish there were a little bit more like notes along those lines. But I also love how down here on the Sidene section, they have Asmodean. They do not have Asmodean post land fearing.
Like restrained, yeah.
Yeah, like
Restrained.
even though
They don't
they
have-
absolutely have like Suan.
They don't have Asmodean
post-stealing.
during his My Chemical Romance phase.
Yes, exactly. Even though they do have like Swan post stilling and
For her, they say post
and
Amerlin.
they
Which
do.
I'm like, why do you say
Yeah,
post Amerlin
it's-
for Suan and post stilling for Leanne? Like, what did Leanne do to hurt Tor.com to where she got stilled, but Suan just wasn't the Amerlin anymore.
Yes. Well, and then of course you have more rain pre-Finn and like things like that.
Yeah.
So I think it's really
Yeah, 4 more
interesting
days
that they
out of the bottom.
have right a number of like things about adding caveats to what they're sort of throwing on there for the ladies. But of course, it is also a 2015 article. So like it seems like they haven't updated in a while or anything along those lines. But still, 2015 was far enough in the books that they should definitely have known some information about different male channelers and things, including a number of asha'man that should be on this chart who are not. Anyway,
I think so. When I first started reading the books, the person that introduced the books to me described channeling to me, because I was confused by he was speaking to someone else who had read the books, and they were being very cryptic so as to avoid spoilers. And they would use terms like,
good
oh
on
yeah,
ya.
they burnt themselves out. So that changed that thing. And I'm going, okay, wait a minute. What does that mean? Because you guys have said it a number of times, and I'm not quite sure how that has any bearing on the magic system. And at this time, I'm like in the middle of book 1 or 2. And they say, so here's the deal. Channeling is like using your body as a vessel. You bring the power into you and then chant as a manifestation of your will. And I was like, hey, that's pretty cool. And then my buddy said, but what happens if you pour too much liquid into a cup? I said, well, it overflows. He said, yes.
Shut your mouth. No.
So the thing is, you drink faster.
Yes.
And he said, so, but the
Obey
human body
your master.
taking in an ethereal force,
Drink your cup faster.
your body can't just let it go. You have to direct it. You have to channel it, or you have to willingly, send it somewhere else. As a matter of fact, this is why it's so dangerous to undo fire with one power, because you have to disperse that heat around. And if you're not careful, you could end up just lighting everything else on fire. Yes. Oh, look, I've got a fire in my campfire. I'm going to put that out. Oh my God.
Now I have so many other fires.
I know. I'll distribute the heat. Ah! No, but
did you just invent one power napalm?
I did. I like it. Or no, one power Greek fire.
It's never a war crime the first time.
You see,
right.
While I was alive, I would just have a problem and then throw a Molotov cocktail at it, and then boom, new problem.
So when you for at least for me, and for those
the major
who have
pain solution.
That's right. And for those that have the kind of brain that I have, oh hi there. Wow, okay, that got bright all of a sudden. For those that have the kind of brain that I have, I also look bright red. Hey.
You
it
kind of look like an Irish
things.
Caricature right now.
I know, right? It's offensive.
Kind of red hair, rosy cheeks, really bright
offensive
skin.
Yeah, what are you doing? That's next month's holiday.
Oh shit! Sorry, my bad.
We're not there yet, even though you pulled out the Guinness. There we go. Now we're looking like a little bit normal, Josh.
There we go. How's that?
Fucking leprechaun.
Is that a little better? That's today. A little better. Okay, so so it helps to it kind of helps to think about, oh, I am a channeler. My body is a vessel to channel the one power. Some people's chalice or vessel is much larger than other people's chalice or vessel. Now, another way for tech geek computer people, the amount you can channel is the amount of RAM you have in your motherboard. What happens if you try and put too much processing through your RAM? Your computer goes and can't do it. So
that is the noise that my computer usually makes when it
right. It is interesting to note that some people have very large capacities for channeling. And some people have very small
Stay out of my bathroom.
capacities for channeling.
Definitely stay out of my bathroom.
and quantifying this becomes very difficult because first off, it's, we often refer to kind of some magic systems as soft magic systems or hard magic systems with a lot of really great rules. Brandon Sanderson is
I
really
used
great
to have
at
a soft
writing
magic system. Then I got a
magic
prescription.
systems. Brandon Sanderson is really great at writing magic systems that have specific rules and criteria. Okay, Jason Denzel from Dragonmount, he wrote his own books, the Mystic series. That is an incredibly soft magic system. Okay,
But it is still really good.
It's a great trilogy. It really is. And
Yes,
the
those two
magic
things
system
are not
is-
mutually exclusive. You
Yes.
can have a very soft magic system and be
But-
great, or a soft magic system and be trash.
But
You can also
go-
have a very
Don't
hard
worry,
magic
honey.
system.
It's fine.
Great.
It's
And
fine.
if
I
you-
like
if
your
you
soft
say-
magic system.
if you sit down and try and pick apart how the mist works in the Mystic series, you can't. It's just one of those things you'll never understand unless you're a mystic. That's how it is. But Robert Jordan's
I
kind of
think
given us
Doctor
the
Strange
best
is a
of both
master of the
worlds.
mystic art.
Well, that is true. Okay, go ask Doctor Strange. But Robert Jordan's done something truly impressive, I think, where he's given us the best combination of hard and soft magic systems, because we do have rules. Men can channel Sidene, women can channel Sidar. You can have circles. Men can go up to, have as many people in the circle as they want, but only women can have, women can only have a circle up to 13, which I know the TV show is messing with.
Well, there's
mechanics
the
of-
caveat in there. Like I
But-
know you're getting at is that you
but-
can't even start a circle with male channelers unless you have a female channeler.
Yes.
And you can't go above the 12 cap or 13 cap for a circle of female channelers unless you add in a male channeler.
Yeah, I think yeah.
I
So
can't
it's-
believe I remembered numbers. Holy shit.
which is fun because you start talking about the 100 companions. They
Fuck
were
off,
linked.
Siri. Holy shit. Sorry.
They were linked. So who helped them do that? Anyway,
Were
they linked?
They were not linked.
I thought they
They
were.
were specifically not linked.
Oh,
Maybe
okay.
they had an Angreal that like
I thought
Okay,
they were. I thought
that
it was
is
a full.
possible.
Because
but
anyway,
I don't remember ever seeing that they were linked. They were all there.
the
So-
point being.
that is an interesting idea.
They were all there.
Yeah, we should research that. We should do that.
I think
But-
that is an interesting thing because that would then give the Dark One access to Side Air, presumably.
We'll put a pin in that, and we'll talk about that. Someone put that on a list somewhere. That's
Somebody
good.
write that down.
write that down.
I'm
Write that
working
down.
on it. It's happening.
But again, as my companions have pointed out, and as you've been thinking as you've been listening along, well, yes, but if you have you have an exception to the rule, you have caveats to the rules, and the more you see these rules of the one power, the more you kind of go, okay, but what are the actual fucking rules?
There are no actual.
There are no
rules.
actual, because they talk about Andral is so weak in the power that he can't even break rocks with fire, but the dude can open up massive gateways. So what?
Hey, so pasta, Daniel.
Well, so my thought about those are two different thoughts, and I'm going to get into both of them relatively quickly. Number one, as far as the magic system being hard or soft, one of my favorite things about what Robert Jordan does is that there are some rules that he tells you, and there are some rules that are written in the glossary. And the ones that are actually written in the glossary seem like they're sort of the objective truth in some ways about how the power works. Because when he actually writes them down in the glossary, he's basically telling you, these are my thoughts about how the magic system is supposed to work. And I think that, you shouldn't actually be able to get above a certain power level without actually using men and women. And, part of the whole reason that I wrote this story is an allegory about how women and men should work together and blah, 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 blah. But during the story, there is a complete and utter crapshoot about when you get told a rule about magic. Because everything's from someone's perspective, and at least 75% of those people are wrong about something at some point when they tell it to somebody else or think it in their own head. And so when you're reading it and you're the audience and you're being like, okay, this is how magic should work, so much stuff is just wrong. So much stuff is just someone figuring something out on their own and then postulating that to everybody else as fact rather than actually knowing the objective truth about what's going on. And I love that. It makes the magic system simultaneously more hard and more soft because there's a rule, you just don't know what it is. Because this person thinks they've figured out the rule, but they're probably wrong. And then the other thing that I want to throw out there as far as Andrel is concerned, I love the example of Andrel because how many people in the world are really, really good at one thing? So many people. That's like almost one of the things that makes us human is all of our brains work so differently. I mean, like, again, they're all we're more alike than we are different. But at the end of the day, like, my brain works so differently to come up with answers and make connections and do things like that than the next Joe Schmo who is trying to think about the exact same things. And so again, when you run into somebody who just doesn't really have that much handyman experience, but he'll fix your AC like a motherfucker. Like, that's exactly what I think about when I have thoughts about like Andrel, is the idea that for some reason, gateways, he just went, that makes 100% sense to me. And I can do that even though I shouldn't be able to. And again, like, there are so many people who are just dog shit at math, but then you'll like ask them a question like, oh my God, the scene with Kevin in The Office where they're like, you're terrible at math unless we start asking you how many pies this is. And then he's like, oh yeah, no, if it's food related, I can do math immediately. Like, yeah, because it's what you find important and what your brain is okay with making the connection with. And I love that Andrel is such a great example and such a public example of, you don't need to know everything about magic to be really good at this one thing. And in fact, you can actually not know a lot about magic, but your brain goes, that I got, that I figured out, that made sense to me.
Yeah. But we're talking now that we've kind of laid out the kind of like thoughts and everything about the magic system and how kind of wonky it is and how there's no true concrete answer, but there are definitive, like, yeah, we all agree on answers for the kind of power structure amongst all the channelers in the Wheel of Time. We're comparing Age of Legends to the Third Age.
We did have a topic, didn't we?
Yeah. Oh no, it's fine because I think we set a very good, like,
it's good to establish a foundation,
a nice smooth concrete hanger floor from which to build our foundations of world dominant. Explanation on the differences in channeling path.
Indeed.
So we referenced, or I referenced, and Daniel kind of agreed with Tor.com earlier. But it's hilarious because you can scroll down. The very first comment is, as the internet does, they comment about how wrong the rankings are. Because the rankings on Tor.com from this, again, 2015 article, do put Elaine and Egwene underneath Cat Swain, which from how much of the power they can hold is abundantly wrong. Abundantly wrong. Both Elaine, both potential and current, and Egwene can hold a lot more side there than Cat Swain can. However, counterpoint, Cat Swain do be that bitch that knows way, way more. And so
Yep.
therefore her strength skyrockets. So
She
again,
just
that's where
took a DNA test. Turns out
Oh,
she's
yeah.
100% dat bitch. And
Oh,
also dat bitch got a paralysis net. So
there is that. So these are the things that that was taken more into account into this kind of second wave of the power structure and ranking. And in any fantasy medium, it becomes intrinsically hard to retcon and correct a power scaling system. This is why I made the DBZ comment earlier. It's not that the status of power amongst characters changes. It really doesn't. They just introduce new, bigger baddies that are stronger, but they do so in a way that makes the power scaling system of Dragon Ball Z absolutely irrelevant. And that is a representation of a failure to mitigate and manage a power scaling platform. But Dragon Ball Z has probably also been on the air far, far, far longer than Akira Toriyama ever imagined. And thankfully, not nearly as long, and will not be as long as One Piece, because you should fucking stop.
Hey,
Sorry, Josh.
Hey, tell us how you really feel, Andrew.
I think the Tenenbaum thing of a fantastic series is knowing when to fucking stop. And I thought Naruto had it, and then they fucked up and continued with Boruto. So there's that. At least Bleach fucking stopped. I never thought I'd say anything good about Bleach, but at least they stopped. Anyway, speaking of people that didn't stop and didn't stop even more than most people knew, let's talk power structure. Side air, number one, top of the top, creme a la creme, not by the end of the series, but still creme a la creme, Lanfear. Lanfear, Olivia, and Cimarog. According to the ranking kind of from the companion and the events of the books, they stand at the top of the side dare ranking level, which I could see these other than I believe Olivia, because she's one of the
she's a
one of
folk.
the
or no,
yeah.
she's a
Damane.
former
she rehabilitated Shanshan?
Damane. That's right. Sorry, yes,
Yeah.
that's what I meant.
Yeah, she's
Not
rehabilitated Shanshan. So other than Olivia, Lanfear and Cimarog are both Age of Legends figures. It makes sense that they're at the top because we know there's been a culling of male channelers. We know that in the Westlands that has ultimately led to a decrease, or at least is theorized to be the main reason for a decrease in the overall strength of channelers in the Westlands. So it makes sense that Age of Legends figures are going to be at the top of the list. And we see this as one of the first things that Mo Gideon remarks whenever she fights Nynaeve at Thailand's palace.
Yeah.
Where she's like, you stand no chance. Y'all are so much weaker. Y'all have forgotten. I have learned and forgotten more than y'all have ever even learned. Which is something I hear so much in the IT community from, people that have been in it for like 30 fucking years.
It wasn't Thailand's palace. It was Amathera's.
Yeah, okay. You're right.
I remembered that too, right as you were saying.
At least I knew it was a palace. That's a hat on the back for me.
Well, the one with the Mercedes symbol in it.
That's right. And the mammoth
I knew
skull.
what was in there. I just didn't know the name.
And the saber-toothed tiger skull.
Yeah. And the other thing
that now sits in Michael Livingston's Robert Jordan desk at the Citadel.
Yes.
Huh. Anyway,
so one thing I actually want to throw out here before we continue on this sort of journey into talking about this chart, I do want to throw out there, this is one of the things that I think is fascinating about charts like this, is that you throw in these like potentials and initial and like pre-stilling and after stilling and pre-fin and after fin, and you're going ahead and throwing in a bunch of caveats for sort of what's going on. And again, when you're thinking about characters that go through so much, like Egwene, for example, I feel like Egwene should be on here like 4 times. Because I feel like her initial going to the tower is one thing. And then after she has her time with the Shan is another. And then she goes over and hangs out with the wise ones, and it changes again. And then maybe only 3 times, because I feel like it doesn't really change drastically after that. But I feel like once you start throwing in caveats, you now need to go ahead and like sort of talk about the main characters like almost every time they go ahead and deal with a power change, because also like it has on here that Nynaeve is a 4 initially, and then she gets up to a 3 later, which, to be very clear, this particular chart has 1 being the highest power and more numbers is bad, not the other way around. But again, it's that thing of like, can you really call Nynaeve's like initial a 4 when she has a block that actually stops her from accessing that most of the time? Because like with
Well, this
the
is
block,
part of the
she's
problem.
a 0, or like not a 0, an 80 or whatever the chart goes up to, because she can't
It goes
access
down to
the power
72.
at all. Like,
I mean, so this is part of the problem with the chart, right? Is
yeah,
that the characters that we go along the series with and experience life with
they grow and
get
change.
upgrades and changes. But Cadsuane stays at 5 or +8 or whatever you want to call it. Because that's where we meet Cadsuane. We meet Cadsuane at a point where she's refined her skills, she's refined her craft to the point where she has been to the tower, through the tower, in the tower, said fuck the tower, came back to the tower, said fuck the tower again, and retired.
Yeah.
Like it is an intrinsically imbalanced system in terms of perspective to the channelers as they grow, gain skills, gain knowledge, and gain proficiency, which again has been one of the biggest problems with the first kind of chart that we saw for channelers in the Wheel of Time, the second one, and persists to be a problem with the third. And
Yes.
A full-on just reality of this, you're trying to quantify a large set of variables across multiple different groups, even when you divide amongst Sidene and Sidair and make them mutually separate or completely separate from each other.
Yep.
Even within their own strata, you're trying to account for so many variables that it makes a hardcore ranking impossible. Absolutely impossible.
Well,
Because will Cadsuane win against somebody that's so new to channeling as Avienda, who's only been channeling for what, a year and a half?
Probably.
Yeah, absolutely. Cadsuane is just gonna fucking dance around her, spear sister, maiden of the spear or not. It doesn't matter. When it comes to channeling, Cadsuane's gonna be like, that's fucking adorable. Do it again so I can stop it again.
You know,
but you're going to have people with like the souls and the abilities of like Elaine and Egwene and Nynaeve and these just overbearingly powerful presences that it's not going to matter what Cadsuane does. There is a need in the pattern for them to succeed, ergo plot armor, ergo they will succeed.
well, and it's fun that you bring up the pattern, because what do we know about the pattern? The pattern puts things in balance. It just does. It puts things in balance. That's why they talk about in the early series when they've captured the last couple of false dragons, they were stronger than anyone's ever, like in memory. They're stronger because the wheel is trying to balance Sidene and Sidar. It has to. It has to find balance. And so I think a lot of people, but again, as we've already discussed to death, the amount of power that you can channel is a very insignificant measure to check when talking about your capability with the 1 power.
The Atlantic
is-
Ocean is worthless to a thirsty man.
Exactly. And we actually see this in the White Tower.
Oh,
In the
I
White
feel
Tower,
so
they
smart
basically say, in the White Tower, they go, oh, yes, the sister who can channel the most is the one who's in charge and is the one who shall be shown deference to. And it's the one who can channel the most. That's the ranking system. And the Aiel wise ones are like, well, that's stupid. What if the person who can channel the most is a dummy? And the White Tower's like, well, yes, that does happen sometimes. And the Aiel go, then why give them authority? Well, because they can channel a lot. Okay. And there's a lot of interesting things. And I think a lot of people, and I believe, and please do not take this as me offering woke criticisms of the TV show. I am not going there. We'll have that conversation in person if you'd like to have that conversation. But I believe this is one of the things that they're going to be changing in the TV show, because this is one of the things that they've said straight up. We're changing the mechanics of how the One Power works. And a lot of people reading the book series go, well, wait a minute. Why are men generally able to channel more? But the phrasing they use is, why are men stronger in the One Power? Okay, they're not. They're not. By and large, they can channel more. That does not make them stronger or more powerful, as we've just noted 100 different ways. So you've got, and even Rand, the most powerful channeler in existence, was held in a shield. Because it doesn't matter how powerful you are, you're not that powerful. Sorry. And you both raised your hands when I threw that in there.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Okay, I was also going to point, and it's a really quick point, is there's this disingenuous but also common failure in terms of mitigating measuring strength, as instead of measuring power, you measure destructive capability as strength.
Yes.
And Saidin is listed or portrayed for males as intrinsically males being stronger in channeling things like fire and earth. These more kind of quote unquote destructive elements, which anything is destructive in its own way. But you get what I'm saying is when you think of, I want an element that can destroy stuff, you don't generally think water, you don't generally think air, you think earth, fire, that kind of stuff. Whereas Sidair is stronger in air and water weaves. So this connection between destructibility gets equated to strength, which in the grand scheme is not true. In the scheme of war, yeah, you might have some merit to stand on because, well, war is completely irrational. War is completely about destruction and destroying, but that does not equate to strength. And I yield the remainder of my time.
The gentleman will
the
yield his
gentleman
time.
from Seattle.
Yield back his time. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Seattle.
So I cannot agree more with Andrew, but I do also want to throw another thing on here that is an interesting piece of how the magic systems work. Because again, we talk regularly, and the sisters and the asha'man and everything talk regularly about how do you access the powers that you are wielding, the powers that you are channeling. I think it is actually somewhat unsurprising that the group that sort of needs to, or it works this way, or whatever it is that you want to call it, that they need to surrender to that power, have a hard time making it do what they want to a degree of doing more than what it allows them to. Surrender does not lend itself to overly powerful things. But you know what does? grabbing a hold of the strongest force in the universe and bending it to your will. And so again, it's this idea of no one should actually think that a skilled wielder of Saidar cannot take out a less skilled wielder of Sidene, or one who doesn't know as much, or anything along those lines, because as we've talked about, there is so much more that goes into a duel, or into a power level, or into an intelligence around a system, than just your ability to grab more of it, or an ability to channel more of it, or an ability to be a conduit of more of the raw data, or the raw fire, or the raw water. But at the end of the day, it does encourage ways to use it. It does encourage thought processes that you have around it. It does encourage different things about it. And therefore, if I can hold 100 kilograms of the power, and you can only hold 90 kilograms of the power, I have an advantage. If I'm already used to grabbing a hold of 100 kilograms of something and throwing it at someone, and you are used to lightly gathering 90 kilograms of whatever it is, I now have an advantage in a wartime or dual time type situation. Now,
I have stamina.
Right? Now, that does not mean that I'm going to be able to build a building as deftly as you. And that should definitely go along with power. And I would not be able to heal as well as you, because you have an advantage there. But again, it's definitely a very interesting. It's definitely a very interesting thing, because I just want to mention, someone in our Discord just said something that I think is very apropos. Surrendering takes more strength than grabbing. To some people, it absolutely does. To some people, it absolutely doesn't. It matters more about how your brain works and how you think things should work, rather than an inherent better or worse or strong or not. Because I think that surrendering to something can be very weak. Surrendering something to something else can be extremely strong. Grabbing a hold of something can be extremely weak. Grabbing a hold of something else can be extremely strong. And so, again, there are just an infinite number of variables about what all of this means. And my sort of, I'm going to go into some sort of final thoughts here, because we're getting a little. We ended up doing the foundation for this. I think that we probably have a lot more to talk about this, but we're going to the point already. Just as a general back to the topic, but also to what we've been talking about, I think one of the things that the people in the Age of Legends had a huge advantage over the people in the Third Age is not only the idea of just culling out power, and the sort of chalices becoming smaller, but also there's a big piece of this that is knowledge. I think that way more people in the Age of Legends knew the rules a lot better than people in the Third Age. And I think that that makes them at least feel a lot stronger in the power, even if they're not necessarily so much ridiculously stronger in the actual scale of how much they can hold, which it also seems like they are. But even if they're only like one step down, an abundance of knowledge is super strong. Knowledge is power. Knowledge makes you a lot more equipped to be able to deal with situations. And when you can do things with whatever medium it is that you're using that other people can't even dream of, that's almost insurmountable in a lot of ways.
I love how your point boils down to
Education connection for free.
They were well educated.
Yes.
So let me just ask this, and anybody out there, patrons listening live, go ahead and leave a comment in the section. If you're on YouTube, or if you're listening somewhere else and you can leave a comment, go ahead and leave a comment.
Pause the video now. Pause the video after
I'm
the
going to
question.
ask this question, then pause, put in your best answer.
Pauses the video now when they're just like, what do I do now?
What do I do now?
What now, Andrew? You smart ass.
Your computer, is it more powerful than a computer that was in, say, the 1960s or 70s?
You think like this is the only wall of my house that
more
isn't
powerful?
computer banks.
Ah.
Everything else, computer banks. The ceiling, computer banks. My floppy disk are this big around, and each one only holds 5 megs.
So here's my point. My point is, I don't think anybody could, Iris, define power, because I plug it into the same outlet. You plug your 1970s computer into the same outlet?
I like Morshadi's comment.
Listen,
Some guy got
Sexy
doomed to
Morshadi,
run on
listen,
a Nokia.
some guy got a doomed to run on a Nokia? Damn.
Yeah, but his computer can't run the Wheel of Time game, so.
Well, it's time for
Power
you to get a
versus
new
compatibility,
computer, buddy.
which has been a big part of the conversation here. How
That's a
compatible
conversation.
are you with the different tenants and the different abilities and channeling versus how much raw wattage, how much raw power do you put in?
Just to give you guys an idea, just to give you guys a little bit of context here. The Apollo computer that led the Apollo space mission had a total of 32,000 bits of RAM. Okay, think about that. Bits, not bytes. Bits. Bits. 1 bit is an eighth of a byte. So if you divide 32,000 by 8, you get 4,000. So we're talking essentially 4 kilobytes of RAM. What would you be able to do nowadays with a computer that can only handle 4 kilobytes of RAM? Probably
Loads
nothing.
of letter A.
Probably nothing. But they went to the moon. Iris, I'm sorry. I know it's not. I know it doesn't translate exactly.
Yeah. RAM equaling power is a oversimplification, but it's not untrue. Think of RAM as the Rolodex for your computer.
Yeah, I use this wordage very specifically because I want to point out that the processing power and capabilities of those computers back then, by an eyeball comparison, can easily be said to be nowhere near as capable. But
Could you imagine telling an astronaut now you're going into space on 4 kilobits of information?
Yeah. And
they quit on the spot.
Yeah. And
like,
to go
fuck
to the moon,
you, bro.
To go to the moon with them as much power as, like, it just, my point being is that just because you've got a computer that has 11,000 lines of text code that you're able to code and modify to make it do different things, doesn't necessarily mean you can't get the job done. A great example of this is Androl, as we have alluded to before. But we also get, Avienda thinking she can figure out how to do a a gateway if she can figure out how to do it rather than being forced to do it the way she was told to do it. You get a lot of examples of this with the kin. There's the one lady who has a super special way of making a shield for the one power. She can hold anybody because it's more elastic than it is, you know. You've got healing weaves from the IOI.
She's a
There's
dominatrix.
hey, there's just so many things about quantifying the one power that really you can't. As Andrew said earlier, you can't. It's impossible. So just because someone can hold more of the one power than you does not necessarily mean that they're more capable than you. Just because someone can hold less power, less of the one power than you, doesn't mean you should think them inferior in any way. Swan taught us that lesson in Saladar when she realized, holy shit, these people are just ignoring me. They don't even care that I'm here. I could hear and learn and know everything. And she kind of does, and it's kind of cool. So
knowing is 90% of the battle.
Are we ready for final thoughts? Does anybody have anything else?
Well, I think Daniel
I already
already
threw
did
mine
his, and
in.
this was
Oh,
supposed to
did
be
you?
yours.
Hey, look at me going. My bad. Sorry. I'll pay attention
Okay.
next time. No, I won't. My final
No, you
thoughts
won't.
on this subject are
Attention deficit. Ooh, squirrel.
yeah, that's what it is. My final thoughts on this are look, it define how you want to quantify the one power before you just go on and say, well, it's not okay that men could channel more of the one power. I mean, it's just a thing, guys. It's a facet. It is one facet in the many faceted gem that is the rules and regulations when it comes to the one power. There are women who can channel more than men. There are, you know, men who can do more with water and air than with women. These are not rigid rules. They're generalities.
In fact, I feel like there's actually a pretty high likelihood that there are most men who can actually do more with water and air than they can with women.
Happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
Third age pocket. Hey, how you doing? With a little bit of fire.
I'm leaving it there. Go
Go
ahead, Andrew.
That's irresponsible. That's littering, and that's illegal. Right there. Can't just leave things places.
Distributing to free literature.
So, fuck, I had a really
Hey,
good thought earlier.
Just
I can't remember it now.
FYI, if Matt was here, he could definitely do more with women. He knows women.
No, I think a parent.
Oliver's the real winner here.
Hey, everything Oliver knows he learned from Matt and Telmanis.
Which is why Matt thinks he's a little shit.
Oh, I remember my example now.
Yay, we did it.
I have interviewed more people for an IT job in the past 3 months than I ever thought I would in my life. And if we're talking about a comparison amongst how much you can grab and hold on to versus your skills in holding on to information and using it. Bitch. Let me tell you,
But
I have seen people, I have interviewed people that have done jobs that we're talking like NSA level jobs above what I do. I do bare basic civilian contractor working for the DoD stuff. We're talking like NSA doing all this fabled stuff, leading sections of the NSA, have all these certs, CISSP, CAT or CASP, CCNA certs, which is actually an exam that I failed because I couldn't study because work is a fucking dick. But you know, they pay me well enough so they can be a dick for now. I cannot tell you the amount of people that with CCNA certificates or certifications that I have asked to tell me the difference between a static IP and DHCP, which is very base, bare bones information for people working in the IT field. That only either gave me a half answer or no answer. I cannot tell you the number of people that gave me that have Security Plus certifications that cannot tell me the function of a default gateway. People that could not tell me what the probable problem of having a machine start up with no screen, but the fan spinning high and then shutting itself off after a couple of seconds, what that might be. Things that for me, I consider very easy questions, very easy solutions. So that's not to say that these individuals are dumb or stupid or wrong, because they're not. They're obviously not if they pass those tests. But it's a comparative kind of analysis between the skill sets that you're going to find in the Wheel of Time. And it's one of the things that we see that makes Rand so drastically different and more effective than the other asha'man and the other Aes Sedai around him. He didn't know what he was doing with arrows of fire, but his past soul had the knowledge and the ability to recollect it and do arrows of fire and blossoms of flame and these kind of things. So
Also, real quick, I am reminded of the quote that Andrew brought in last week that I think is, again, very appropriate here. If you if you judge a fish based on its ability to climb a tree, it will forever think it is dumb. That is not a good way of judging every person or animal or thing
or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've talked a lot about the bare bones of the kind of power ranking structure, of the power structure, of the relative strength of individuals. Well, we haven't really talked a lot about the relative strength of individuals, but
sure,
this kind of proclivity for the published documentation to talk about individuals' strength relative mostly to how much of the power they can hold. With some caveats given to individuals between their initial strength and their potential strength, some caveats given to others based off of notable feats here and there. And it's not what I expected the conversation to be. I am by no means disappointed in the conversation.
Also said.
Maybe we'll do a part two where we can do the actual compare and contrast that we initially meant to do.
We have to, because this was setting the ground stage, the entry level kind of expectations or kind of status quo of Third Age channeling power structure. We didn't even set the structure for Age of Legends power structure.
That's right.
Channelers. Except establishing very briefly that Age of Legends channelers are definitely, or at least should be, more powerful than Third Age, though I challenge that drastically. Thank you.
There's a conversation to be had there for sure.
Yeah, and I think it is a conversation. We set it up best
well.
saved. Yeah. I think we did a lot of good setting up for a part two, like Daniel said, like Josh said. And I hope that everybody that's listening to this now, listening to this later, thinks that the second part would be great. Whether you do or don't, we'll probably still do it either way, but we love your feedback and your opinion on it. Because we might do it sooner if more people want us to actually compare Age of Legends channeling strength to the Third Age channeling strength and the facets there through the lens of this conversation.
Indeed.
But it is dynamic, it is ever changing, it is, like many things in the time, infinitely interesting if you're willing to go down that rabbit hole, which we all are, because we've been doing this since fucking 2018. Be the Robert Frost. Take the road less traveled. Let's go. That's my final thought.
That's it.
By the way, that's a synonym for butt stuff. So have fun with your Valentine's Day.
Butt stuff. Hashtag butt stuff. Hey, so if you want to know why we were just randomly laughing our asses off, remember, you've got to go. God damn it, more shoddy. You gotta go to Black Tower
leg?
Pod. Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Now I can see. I thought it was like a stomach at first, and then I saw the split, and I was like, "What the fuck happened to this person?" All right, never mind.
Go to blacktowerpod.com, sign up for our Patreon, and listen to us live as we record these episodes, and get to see the horrifying comments. I mean, hilarious comments that our other live listeners make during the show, and then you can know what we're laughing at. And it's great. It's always a fun time. Remember, be a patron, support the Mahales for as little as $1 a month. And you too can be a member of the Black Tower. Things are great. The world is wonderful. As my good friend Eric Butts says, times are tough, things are crazy. But if you guys will all just remember, we will get through this. We will get through this together. And he makes you say it with him. You don't have to say it with me.
Oh,
But
I was thinking of God
will
is
get
great,
through
beer is good,
this.
people are crazy.
We will get through this together.
Well, that's my country coming out right there.
But that's it.
Wow.
So, hey, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for supporting the channel by giving us a like, by giving us the follow hashtag Taint Watch. We're making the taint sauce. It's going to be ready for Jordan Con. It's going to be delicious. So you got to be there. And Norm, I haven't forgotten about your bottle. I've still got it. And I'm sorry I haven't sent it to you. Things have been cray, but I got your address. I got your bottle. It's coming at you. We
Also,
hope that you
on the tickety talkities, in addition to the taint sauce, you will also find the occasional snippet from I got you guys like above and below me. So I'm going to point down for Daniel because Daniel's below me currently in the screen, not in life, but in the screen. Daniel has a rum bar very close to him where he is going on a rum journey through, I believe, the entirety of the Caribbean, which sounds incredible. And I am jealous and I love it. But you can also find me. I am taking and trying different bottles of whiskey. If you don't know, whiskey does also encompass things like scotch and bourbon. I am trying different ones of those. We actually just uploaded a new one today as we're recording this on Valentine's Day. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, go and check it out and leave recommendations for us. If you're leaving a recommendation for me, please leave a recommendation for a whiskey / scotch / bourbon. If it's for Daniel, please leave a recommendation for a whiskey, or not a whiskey, a rum, namely a Caribbean rum. And I believe Daniel's about to show you his map of the Caribbean.
It's so big.
Oh, can you bring it closer?
So many things.
Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
So
this is incredible.
The actual Caribbean map, and then around the edge, you just have all of the different countries with the different rums that you're going to try from each place.
Got that rum down in Barbados, man.
So fun. I've actually tried 8 of them. I have not recorded the 5 that I have tried on my map yet.
Or videos, because we haven't seen them.
Yeah,
I know.
But if you have recommendations, if you're a lover of whiskey, if you're a lover of rum, if you're a lover of scotch, bourbon, mead, whatever the case,
Guinness,
have you let us know. And we may have a more interesting announcement ready for you come closer to April, depending on how things go and how we feel. But
indeed,
we're excited. You should be excited. Jordan Con, see us there. If you haven't already gotten your tickets and your stuff, go ahead and get it now. jordancon.org for everything Jordan Con. Can't make it to Jordan Con, make sure you show up to WattCon. WattCon this year is actually during my birthday. Saturday is my birthday, the 15th of July. Go to wattcon.com. We're all involved in some of the organization and planning of WattCon, and we would love to see you there. We had a blast last year. Well, the guys had a blast last year. I had a cool day and a half because fucking asshole sickness, but well, not the asshole sickness, but it was the pandemic.
It was not sickness in his asshole.
Yeah. I mean, well, you never know. It could be whatever. But we're so excited to see you at JordanCon, to see you at WattCon. If you can't make it, again, blacktowerpod.com for all your stuff. Black Tower, including our Patreon, that has a whole slew of benefits that many others are already enjoying, and you should enjoy too if you would very much like to support what we do here. But that being said, we're going to stop selflessly promoting all of us for now for the next 5 seconds and say thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for tuning into our live listeners. And we cannot wait to see you again. For all of us here at the Black Tower Podcast, I have been your Bajan Mahale, Andrew.
I have been your sword.
And I have
Josh, and we hope you've enjoyed a little bit more insane than you were when you first got here.
excellent. And I have been your Amin Khan Mihail Daniel, bringing you the news that Jordan Khan actually only has 321 3-day passes left. So
Hurry up.
make
Hurry up.
that happen. But from all of us here at the Black Tower, thank you very, very much for being here. We hope that you are having a wonderful morning or whatever it is for you guys. And in case we don't see you again, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Oh, be right back. Sorry.
Now I gotta stop the recording. There it is.